What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Lions Nation Unite. My name is Spencer Raxter. Appreciate you tapping in. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, follow, all the different things. Lions Nation Unite all over social media, wherever you get it. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. No matter where you're at, Lions Nation Unite has a presence, and please follow and subscribe. Lions Nation Unite is a platform created by Herman Moore to bring all different Lions content creators from all walks of life together so we can share our thoughts and have some great content going. What's up, William? Appreciate you tapping in. Today, we're going to talk about the Detroit Lions offseason so far and what the free agents period has looked like for the Lions, because the newest addition for the Detroit Lions was bringing back Yodi Iosaka, the interior offensive lineman. I thought this was a good move by Detroit. I thought this was a good signing by Brad Holmes. I mean, you look at Yodi, and every time that he has entered the game, every time the Lions have called his number or needed him to play because of injury or whatever it may be, he has stepped up in that role. And I've said it before. I've been on record saying that I think that right guard spot on the Detroit Lions is the most insulated position in the NFL because you're playing between Penei Sewell and Frank Ragnow. So it's pretty easy to make a name for yourself playing in the right guard spot for the Detroit Lions, but some people have struggled there. He hasn't. He hasn't been one of those guys. And then this is a good depth signing. It's not this, home run, can't miss, oh, they're winning the Super Bowl now because they got Yodi back. No, nobody's saying that, but I'd rather have Yodi than have a guy that's unfamiliar with the system or new to this team. He knows his teammates. He knows the coaching staff and Hank Fraley. He knows the playbook. He knows the scheme and what the Lions like to do. So I thought bringing Yodi back was a good signing. Now, this isn't going to be some big lucrative deal. We saw Pride of Detroit put one out there, an article about all of the free agent signings that the Detroit Lions have made, and whether it was Craig Reynolds, Dan Skipper, Al-Quadin Muhammad, whoever it was, Pat O'Connor, they were signing these 1 year sub $1.5 million deals. I got to assume that this Yodi deal is going to be of the similar vein of those. It's probably going to be a 1 year, $1.42 million signing. So, like I said, just a solid piece to bring in, a solid depth piece for the Detroit Lions to have. And I was happy they got it done. I'd rather them have Yodi as a depth piece going into the draft so they don't feel like they have to get a guard. They don't feel like they have to reach a guard. And now Brad Holmes has his roster pretty much set going into the draft. You'd still like to see him make a improvement at the edge rusher position, but that's what the draft is for. And I expect him to do that. I expect him to add an edge rusher in the draft that he's going to pair with Aiden Hutchinson for a long time. But what he's done so far, I have this right here. It is the official Lions offseason of free agents that are still out there, guys that are off the roster now, and then guys you brought back. What up, Spencer? I'm so excited about the game today between Michigan State and Auburn. Yeah, me too. Me too, Steve-O. It's going to be great. I got a good feeling about this one. Two great teams going at it. Michigan State's going to have to bring their A game, but I think they will. Go green, baby. But now, officially, the Detroit Lions have retained the players they retained in free agency were Derek Barnes, Anthony Pittman, Ezekiel Turner, Marcus Davenport, Dan Skipper, Miles Adams, Craig Reynolds, Levi Onwuzurike, Tim Patrick, Mitchell Agood, Shane Zylstra, Pat O'Connor, Al-Quadin Muhammad, Khalil Dorsey, and Yodi Iosaka. Those are just the players. If anybody can count all those, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 players they re-signed. 16. And that doesn't even count the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys they brought in from different teams. DJ Reed, Roy Lopez, Grant Stewart, Kyle Allen, yeah boy, the tight end, Rock Ya-Sin, and Avante Maddox. This team was extremely desolate when it came to roster. They didn't have a lot of players, so they had to here's the shirt fully, Rogue Blue. This is the Viking Suck shirt. You can get it at lionsnationunite.com. There's Vikings Suck, Packers Suck, Bears Suck. A ton of different great merch options on Lions Nation Unite. So go check that out on the Lions Nation Unite website. A lot of great merch for you guys to choose from. But yeah, like I was saying, that's let me just count it for sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 players that Brad Holmes has signed in free agency. So the whole sitting on his ass, Brad Holmes is asleep at the wheel. He signed 22 players. You needed to bring a lot of these guys back, man. You had like 30 dudes on your active roster. I think that's the reasons Darius Smith got cut. That money, that 11 million, he needed to allocate that to sign 20 different guys. So is it still possible that Zadarius Smith can come back? Yeah, it is. He's not on the roster, but he didn't sign anywhere else either. The players from last year that are still in free agency. We know Carlton Davis got signed with New England. Iffy's with Miami. Kevin Zeitler's with Tennessee. Kendall Vildor with Tampa Bay. Jalen Reeves-Maven and Zadarius Smith both have not been signed by anybody yet. Both were cut by the Detroit Lions. And then you have John Kaminsky, Ben Neiman, Emmanuel Mosley, Kyle Pecco, Teddy Bridgewater, and Allen Robinson, who are still free agents as well. So we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if Brad Holmes brings some of those guys back as well. But shout out to him for getting these guys in here and making the deals done so you can feel the roster. What up, though, Shift God? How you doing, brother? Appreciate you tapping in. Steve O'Baby says, one thing I do respect about Brad Holmes, Spencer, is that he does things on his terms and who he wants to be here and not what people think who they want to be here. Yeah, he's not going to, like, I can sit up here and, bang the desk and say, Brad Holmes needs to sign this guy. Brad Holmes needs to bring in this player. Brad Holmes is failing in the free. He doesn't give a shit what I say, nor should he. He knows he knows a lot more about football than I do. He's built an amazing roster over the past couple of years for the Detroit Lions. And what he did in this offseason was retain a lot of the pieces that kept that roster together, a lot of the ancillary guys and the glue pieces. Bringing back your guys counts as splash moves. Sorry, not sorry, says Rogue Blue. It does. You have to. Like, all of the big name guys, all of the splash free agents you wanted, all of the special guys, they were all injured last year. All you had was the glue guys. All you had was the depth pieces. So that is something with the Lions fan that's freaking out, that needs more, that needs the improvement. I can understand. Like, I'm not going to be mad at you. If you want improvement, you need it now. Brad Holmes hasn't done enough. What's he doing? He's asleep at the wheel, blah, 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 blah. Again, he signed over 20 players in free agency, so he's definitely not asleep at the wheel. He had to fill his roster back out. But if you're mad at that, you have every right to be. The Lions season was a failure last year. They flat out. They had the best regular season in team history and then completely choked in the playoffs. So if you want to be mad about that, you can be mad about that. But just don't use the image of the Detroit Lions against the Commanders as what you're basing this team is going to be off of. That team was ravaged with injury. I've said it before. The reason that the weekend Spenny is a W, love the takes. Appreciate you, William. Thanks for tapping in, brother. Steve O'Baby says, that's why when I'm on the heavyweights, people ask me who Brad Holmes should bring here. I say I don't know because I'm not a general manager. Facts. I mean, we don't know. We don't know what he's going to do, but I knew what he had to do, and this is what he had to do. He had to bring all these guys back. Again, I'm going to say it again. Over 20 players this man has signed in free agency. You needed that. Your roster was desolate. And like I was saying, I don't want Lions fans to use the team they saw on the field against the Commanders as the image they paint for the Detroit Lions going into next season, because that's not the same team. It's just not. When you have 20-plus guys on IR, that's not going to be the team that you field when you're healthy, and we know that. And obviously some of the guys like Lee McNeil's probably not going to start the season with the Detroit Lions. He'll probably be on the PUP. Malcolm Rodriguez may or may not start the season with the Detroit Lions, but I know that Amik Robertson will. But I know that Aiden Hutchinson will. But I know that Alex Anzalone will. It's guys like that come in that make such impact and such important plays that guys around them are better. So I need Lions fans to take a little break and remember that when healthy, they have one of the best rosters in the NFL. So thank you, Spencer. Shout out you, Spartan brother. Shout out you, Steve-O baby. Shout out those Spartans, man. Big game tonight. Hopefully they get it done. But Brad Holmes in free agency has had to do I don't know. I also think it's like this is very new for Detroit Lions as well, or Detroit Lions fans as well, seeing what Brad Holmes is doing in the free agent period, because Detroit Lions fans are used to their teams being bad. They're used to, we need that guy. We need that guy over there. We need this guy over here. Hey, he made a bunch of plays for that team. We need to bring him to our team. You don't really have that anymore. Like I said, you have one of the best rosters in the NFL. The most important part is maintaining, cultivating, and staying healthy within that roster. And so the initial reaction, or the initial snap reaction for Lions fans, is we got to go out and bring somebody else in to make this team better. And I'm not mad at that reaction, but that's not what it is anymore with the Lions, because their roster is so good. Because they have to pay, like we saw already, Penei Sewell, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown all got contracts. I know you guys love the core that the Lions have here. You still got to pay Branch, Kirby, Hutch, J-Mo, Sam Laporta, Gibbs. Those are all guys who are going to get top 5 at their position contracts. That top 5 is being like, that's lowballing. So there is a lot of thought and roster construction and finagling that goes into having a team this good and having a roster this deep. Is you have to remember that this team is set, that this team has their guys. They just can't go out and sign, a $40 million defensive end, because they already got one. And I think Lions fans are accepting that. I know the initial reaction was, oh, what are they doing? Why aren't they? Nobody signed anybody. No, Myles Garrett's still with the Browns. Like, Trey Hendrickson still hasn't signed yet. The Lions weren't going to sign him anyways. He's going to get $40 million. Max Crosby is still with the Raiders. When it comes down to it, moving guys like that is hard. Pause. Rogue Blue says the only free agents that are available right now are vets who are weighing their options post-draft. Absolutely. And that's what it's going to be. Joseph Murdoch says the Lions still need to draft an O-line player. Gray Zabel would be a smart pick at 28. Ragnow is playing on one foot. That would end his career, or end the career of most players. Defensive end can be acquired at pick 60. I agree with that 100%. I personally would rather see an end or an edge in the first round at 28, I think. But I don't think any Lions fan will argue that the two biggest needs on this team are edge and interior offensive line. So I think Brad Holmes is going to get two of those guys, or both of those positions, within the first 3 picks, whoever it is. But I'd have to see who's on the board. Like, if they take Gray Zabel at 28, I'm fine with it. But if they passed on a Shamar Stewart or Mikael Williams or Azariku or someone like that to take a Gray Zabel, I might be a little upset there. The artist formerly known as PC Payload, great name. He says, won't be the least bit surprised if we go offensive line at 28, but I'm definitely on a have to address the pass rush very early in the draft. Yeah, that's where I am. And I'm not going to freak out. If they draft a wide receiver or a running back at 28, I'm not going to lie, I'd crash out for sure. But this draft, I've said it before, and to the whole Brad Holmes goes BPA crowd. Brad Holmes only goes BPA. Brad Holmes only goes BPA. You look at what happened last year, right? Last year, there was a glaring need on this team, and it was at the cornerback position. They needed to bring in a guy, at least one guy, to play cornerback. There was an extremely deep well of talent at cornerback in the draft last year. You look at all the guys that went: Wiggins, Terrion, Mitchell, DeJean. All of those guys were first-round grades, first-round talents. And what did Brad Holmes do? He traded up and he got a cornerback at I think they traded up to 24 to get Terrion. And then you drafted another cornerback in the next round. Now, people can say that's BPA. It was BPA to get Terrion. He was the best player on the board. I view it as Brad Holmes saw his guy, went and got his guy. And BPA or not, it just so happens that cornerback was the biggest position of need. And it just so happens that this draft was extremely deep at the cornerback position. Now, fast forward to this year, I think the biggest position of need is edge rusher. And I think this draft is extremely deep with edge rushers. So I could see Brad Holmes having the same game plan, doing the same thing that he did to get Terrion in this draft. I think that there is going to be a run of edge players when it happens in the draft. When that third, I think when that third edge goes, then we're going to start to see him going pretty fast. And I believe Brad Holmes will trade up to put himself in position to get a guy that he believes is his guy, and he's going to pair next to Aiden Hutchinson for the next 5 years. Excuse me. Let's see. Joseph Murdoch says D-line players are deep. O-line with the talent of Gray Zabel is not. Holmes can get a solid pick at 60. I agree, but I also like you got Christian Mahogany in this 6th round last year, and he looks pretty good. I think it's easier to find a good offensive lineman later in the draft than it is a good edge rusher. And with the top echelon or with the upper echelon of talent coming out of this draft with the edge rushers, I would like to get my hands on one of those guys. Because would I rather have Gray Zabel and Nick Scorton or Jack Sawyer, or would I rather have Shamar Stewart and Tate Ratledge? I would rather have Shamar Stewart and Tate Ratledge personally. But like I said, I'm not going to freak out if they draft Gray Zabel. I won't, depending on who is still there. I remember we on the heavyweights 5 to 7 Monday through Friday. Shout out. We did a mock draft. We reacted to a mock draft. Matt Miller of ESPN did one for the Detroit Lions, and he had the Lions taking Gray Zabel at 28. Me and you're like, okay, yeah, that's a good pick. Yeah, he's a good player. He's going to be a good player. You need backup interior offensive lineman for sure. You need somebody that's going to kind of take over those reins. And we were fine with it. But then we saw Shamar Stewart go to the Commanders. We saw Mikael Williams go to the Chiefs. And we saw Ezaraku go to the Eagles. That kind of pissed me off. And then we saw Kenneth Grant go in the 2nd round. And that kind of pissed me off. If you take an offensive lineman, you take an interior offensive lineman, I'm not going to be upset. It would be a good value pick. But if you take Gray Zabel over Shamar Stewart, Mikael Williams, Azareku, and Kenneth Grant, those 4 guys, I would be pretty upset. And I don't think Brad Holmes would do that. I think that he has a higher grade on some of those guys than he would on a Gray Zabel. He's shown, like, I'm trying to think. Penei Sewell is the only offensive lineman he's drafted in the first 2 rounds, I believe. You do need to address that. But like I said, I think that interior offensive line especially, it's much easier to find a talented guy later in the draft. You should try out Berserker Kazan. Great game that just came out. Ooh, I'll check it out. I'll watch some gameplay of that later. Artist formerly known as PC Payload said, if you had to pick one current Lions player Brad would use for draft capital, who would it be? Ooh, man. I don't even want to do that. I like this team so much. I said I wouldn't trade any of these guys just for draft capital because I think, you're trying to win a Super Bowl. I think having these guys right now on this team is more important than the draft capital. But if, like, gun to my head, you got to trade one of your core players, I'd probably pick Sam Laporta. I think that, no disrespect to him, he's fantastic. It's just I don't think the tight end position is as pivotal to a Super Bowl winning team success than other positions. Late, who did they sign? Alita. They re-signed, or Attila, sorry. They re-signed Yodi Iosaka, brought him back. Again, I'm assuming it's going to be a deal similar to Pat O'Connor and Al-Qadim Muhammad and Craig Reynolds and all those guys, going to be like a 1 year, $1.5 million deal. So it is a good depth piece to bring in. Like I said, Yodi, he has stepped in and he's made plays before at that guard spot. You every time he's been called upon for the Detroit Lions, he's answered the bell. So I was happy they brought him back. If we took a wide receiver in the first, the whole city would explode. I would not be happy. Any word on Z guy here? Haven't heard anything. I've not heard anything yet. I mean, I see him out there, Cash Doll still. So looks like he's still dating Cash Doll or still hanging around with Cash Doll. So maybe that's a good sign for Lions fans. I wouldn't mind seeing them bring back Zadarius Smith. I forget who said it earlier. Let me try to find the comment. Here it is. It's from Rogue Blue. The only free agents right now are vets who are weighing their options post-draft, and I think Zadarius falls into that category as well. I think he likes Detroit. I think he likes it here. I would not be surprised at all if he came back. I hope they get Jihad Campbell in the first round and Nick Scorton early in the second, moving up. I love Jihad Campbell. I think, like, pound for pound, I think Jihad Campbell is one of the best prospects in this draft. I would probably have him as a top 5 prospect in this draft if I really broke it down. The guy's special. He is a special player. He is all over the place. Freak athlete, can do a lot of different things. With them signing Derek Barnes, I think the probability of them drafting Jihad Campbell goes down for sure, but I would not be mad at that at all. I think Jihad Campbell would instantly make your defense better. You trust Fromm more than Hooker? That's kind of crazy. I don't know. Oh, you're talking about trading Hooker? You're not going to get anything for Hendon Hooker. Let's see here. Do we think Campbell will be there when we pick? Says James Holyfield. It's going to be close, right? He's going to be right around that anywhere from 17 to 27 range. I know it's a 10 pick range and it's kind of crazy, but he'll be in striking distance for the Lions. If they want him, they might be able to get him right where they are, or they can move up reasonably to get him. But I don't think they would trade up for Jihad Campbell personally. I think that if you're trading up, you're going to get one of those top 5 edge rushers. Muhammad needs twice the workload. He's proved himself. He's going to have all the opportunities in the world next year. You look as it sits right now, opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, your rotation is Josh Pascal, Marcus Davenport likely to be the starter, and then Al-Qadim Muhammad. He's definitely going to have all the opportunities in the world. I thought he proved himself last year as well. He showed that he can get to the passer. He's got that good NFL body. Pause. Like he looks like a defensive end in the NFL. He's long. He's a big guy. I liked what I saw out of Muhammad. I'm glad they brought him back. If Kenneth Grant falls past 20, maybe even Walter Nolan, I'm on board with either of them. Yeah, I love Kenneth Grant. I see Kenneth Grant slipping in mock drafts now, and that just confuses me. I don't understand that one at all. I think Kenneth Grant is one of the best defensive tackles in this draft, and I think he should be a top 15 pick. But we'll see. If he falls to the Lions, I would absolutely love Kenneth Grant. He's a monster. I get serious like Chris Jones vibes from Kenneth Grant. I think he's going to be a really good player in the NFL. The artist formerly known as PC Payloads is the only thing likely about Davenport is a season-ending injury. All right. It's come on, give the guy a shot. That wasn't his fault last year. He got judo chopped. Attila Hardy says, I think they signed Brandon Sheriff. Do you think I thought they signed Brandon Sheriff. Do you think they're still looking at him? Yeah, possibly. I mean, maybe not. Actually, no, with Yodi, maybe not. But I think they might be done with free agents. I think they might be done. You look at all the guys they brought in and the depth they have now. I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions were done in free agency, and I'd be happy with what they've done. Like I said, they brought back. They did the first thing they needed to do, and that was address their cornerback 1 spot. As soon as Carlton Davis got out of town, you got arguably the best cornerback on the market, DJ Reed, on inarguably the best deal for a cornerback. So I'd love to see that. and I think you upgraded your depth on the defensive line with Roy Lopez. He's a very good depth signing. You got your replacement for Jalen Reeves-Maybin with Cam Stewart. You got cornerback depth with Rock Ya-Sin and Avonte Maddox. So I was really happy with free agency for the Detroit Lions. Now let's see what they do in the draft. Shout out to Phil. Good to see you too, brother. How much does MSU win by today? 4. Give me a 4-point win. Another one we got to sweat out, but Spartans on in the Final Four. Attila Hardy. Wouldn't mind Calais Campbell for cheap. I would not mind Calais Campbell either. I love Calais Campbell, and he is a great locker room guy. He is extremely versatile. He's still productive to even with how old he is now. He's still a very productive player. So if they go out and get Calais Campbell, I would love it. It's because he's a nose tackle. People are betting teams will devalue Kenneth Grant. I mean, I hope so. I hope to go ahead and devalue Kenneth Grant. I'll take Kenneth Grant in a heartbeat. Yeah, but the free agent period for the Detroit Lions, like I said, other than little tiny pieces, practice squad guys, I wouldn't be surprised if Brad Holmes was done here. Now you have your depth set. Now you have all of your roster set. And you look at on the offensive line, now your depth pieces being Yodi, Sorsdal, and Skipper, and Manu. And I think they're good with that. So now it's just the draft. They don't really have any more needs. You fix the depth on the offensive line by bringing back Yodi and Skipper. You fix the depth at the cornerback room by bringing in Rock Ya-Sin and Avonte Maddox and letting Vildor and Emmanuel Mosley walk. You fix the depth at defensive tackle by adding Roy Lopez and re-signing Levi Onwuzurike and Miles Adams. And now you have that rotation set. You like to think that you fixed the edge depth, but I know nobody wants to put stock into Marcus Davenport, but I think a rotation of Davenport, Muhammad, and Pascal opposite of Aiden Hutchinson is pretty good. They're going to get somebody in the draft there too. That's what I'm banking on to say that that's fixed. And your wide receiver core is shorn up by bringing back Tim Patrick. So there really isn't a position on this team where you look at it and you're like, the Detroit Lions are lacking depth there, or the Detroit Lions are they're not good enough there. Now Brad Holmes can go into the draft and do what he does best and draft some of the best players in the class. And I fully expect him to. So I think Brad Holmes will go out there and BPA, Schmeepa, whatever you want to say, Lakers in 5. I expect Brad Holmes to get a top tier edge rusher in this draft. I do. I know that everybody wanted Myles Garrett, and I did too. But that's when he was on a $20 million a year deal. You can't get him for 40. You already got your $40 million pass rusher in Aiden Hutchinson. I think what Brad Holmes wants to do is to artist formerly known as PC Payload says, with all respect, pretty good doesn't usually win Super Bowls. And with all respect, the Detroit Lions team is much better than pretty good. If you think it's a pretty good team, whatever. I think they have undoubtedly a top 3 roster in the NFL. And I think that's good enough to win Super Bowls. I think the Lions won the Super Bowl last year if they didn't get hurt. So, I mean, if you want me to say they have elite depth pieces, like Yodi Iosaka is an elite backup offensive guard. Roy Lopez is an elite rotational defensive lineman. I mean, if the adjectives are different, it's the same thing. The Detroit Lions have one of the deepest rosters in the NFL. They had one of the deepest rosters in the NFL last year. That's how they won 15 games while having 20 players on IR. So I think their roster is pretty good. I think it's more than pretty good. Rogue Blue said Mikel or Shamar. Can't say either. If they're both there, I would go Shamar personally. I think he's more NFL ready. Mikel Williams is more upside, I would say, but Shamar Stewart's a freak. And both of those guys, I think, are somebody Brad Holmes values because their versatility and their ability to move around and to do different things. So, yeah, I'm excited. I think free agency was a W for the Lions. It really was. They, like I said, for everybody that's saying Brad Holmes did nothing in free agency. Brad Holmes didn't, he was sleeping at the wheel. Let me give you this, before I get out of here, this list of free agents Brad Holmes signed. Derek Barnes, Anthony Pittman, Ezekiel Turner, Marcus Davenport, DJ Reed, Dan Skipper, Miles Adams, Roy Lopez, Craig Reynolds, Levi Ozarike, Grant Stewart, Kyle Allen, Tim Patrick, Yeah Boy, Mitchell Agood, Zylstra, Pat O'Connor, Elko Muhammad, Rocky Yassin, Khalil Dorsey, Avante Maddox, and now Yodi Iosaka. Over 20 players, man. They had to do it. They had to nickel and dime because they had to fill out a roster. Spenny likes his freaks. I do like my freaks. I am a fan of the freaks. I think Shamar Stewart is a freak. He's no Diddy, but the kid is going to be good. But that'll do it for us today. Appreciate you guys tapping in. Make sure you smash that like button. Subscribe to Lions Nation Unite. We got a lot of content coming for you guys all summer long, leading up to the Lions. Tons of draft coverage, tons of different stuff. Make sure you smash that like button. Subscribe. Go get some merch at LionsNationUnite.com. And appreciate you guys tapping in, hanging out with me. Just a little quick breakdown of the Detroit Lions free agent period. I think that it's done. I truly think it's done. I think they have all of their depth pieces set, and they're good with all of their depth pieces now. And so now they go out and they go and get some impact players in the draft. You go out and you get your playmakers, you get your all pros, you get the guys that are going to be that dude in the draft. And that's what Brad Holmes has done. That's what Brad Holmes is going to continue to do. And that's what I believe in Brad Holmes to be able to do. He's consistently drafted you all pro players now. Pretty much every year he's drafted an all pro. So at least one. I have faith that he's going to do that. You sign the depth, you sign the pieces, you sign, like Brad Holmes said, you use free agency to fill needs, you use draft to acquire talent. The needs on this team going into free agent were cornerback because Carlton Davis left, and depth. You needed depth because you had over 25 guys as free agents. So he signs you a cornerback one, and he signs you a lot of depth. Now you can go out there and you can get the best players and the impact players in the draft, which I believe he will. So I appreciate you guys tapping in. Smash that like button. Phil, William, Owen, Joseph, Rogue Blue, PC Payload. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Attila, I'll see you guys later. Lions Nation Unite. Smash that like button. Peace.